Welcome and thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Tech Talks by Intracom Telecom, Episode 2, Wireless Fiber, How Millimeter Wave Powers Multi-Gigabit Fixed Access at Scale. Here to present to you from Intracom Telecom is Randy Montoya, Director, Channel Sales, North American Region, George Harlaftis, Senior Sales Engineer, and Charlie Laverso, Sales Director, Wireless Access. If anyone has any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to add them into the chat and they'll be addressed at the end of the session. Charlie, you're up.
Hello, everyone. Yes, Charles Laverso. I'm the Director of Sales for the Fixed Wireless Access products here at Intracom Telecom. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and a special thanks to Winncom, who's been a great help in putting these webinars on for us and a great partner in overall. We're excited to introduce to you our licensed point-to-multipoint products today and share what we've been working on and what we have coming out. It's a pretty exciting time for all of us in the licensed point-to-multipoint space. We're also going to be exhibiting at WISPapalooza, so if you're attending, please stop by the booth. We'll have a full range of our products on display and would love to connect with you in person. With that, I'll turn it over to George, who's going to go through the presentation. Thanks again.
Thanks, Charlie. Hey, everybody. George Harlaftis here from the Atlanta office for Intracom Telecom US. First of all, I'd like to say that we're very honored to see some of our customers that have trusted the WISPs platform that are present on this webinar. So thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. Now, what we're going to do is just a little bit of info on the agenda. We're going to go through Intracom Telecom, for those of you who may not be aware of our brand. We're going to talk a little bit about the current market status, the fact that we need to connect the unconnected. We're going to look at a little bit at the competitive technology landscape. What are the different technologies that are covering the FWA? Then we're going to focus a little bit on the points of consideration. What are the main ideas that have to be considered behind an investment on the FWA? Then we're going to see how Intracom Telecom addresses those for the FWA proposal that we have. And then we're going to have at the end a Q&A session. So Intracom Telecom at a glance. For those of you who may not be aware of us, we have relatively recently entered the US market, but we have a global presence, as you can see on this map. We're pretty much everywhere. We have proven expertise. We have been in the industry for over 40 years. Offices in multiple locations, subsidiaries. We have, as you can see on the right side of the slide here, we have our own manufacturing facilities in Europe. We have 3 R&D centers. And we are the innovation leader when it comes down to a lot of solutions out there, not just wireless, the wireless being the most important one. But the main offering that we want to discuss here is our licensed millimeter wave FWA technology, not to be confused with the unlicensed. So why are we here? Well, this is it. This is just a map of the broadband map and the challenge behind it to connect the unconnected. This is the continental map of the United States, which shows that there's still a lot of gaps there, in broadband connectivity. There's a lot of people out there, a pretty significant percentage, that they're not getting more than 25 megabits to connect on the internet. Of course, there's a lot of funds available, specifically the BEAD fund, that has bridged a lot of those gaps, and it's actually active currently. There's other funds as well, but the main idea is to bridge the gap between the underserved or the unserved areas. And of course, there's always the pressure to deliver that now. So we're going to talk about our solution, the Intracom Telecom solution, specifically the WISPs system, when it comes down to licensed millimeter wave FWA. It is a system that is available now. and it uses the licensed millimeter wave spectrum because it provides flexibility. There are multiple configurations that you can use that with. It is scalable. You can actually recycle the spectrum. And the most important part, it's very reliable because there's no interference there. I'm going to go over these things here. Let's look at the technology competitive landscape that we have. So we're going to compare the WISP system, as I mentioned, the licensed FWA radio that we have, the base station, as well as the CPE, with a different technology. So the first one that you see here is 5G. We've all heard of 5G. One of the main characteristics associated with it is the fact that it requires support. That is not necessarily the simplest and easiest system to deploy, but the main advantage of our solution, the WISP FWA, is the fact that we do not require such port. The system is a single layer 2 FWA technology. The next one you see on the right, that's fiber. Very reliable technology, we all know it. But one of the characteristics associated with that is the fact that you have a significant cost associated with trenching. So WISP doesn't require that. It's just a simple point-to-point, point-to-multipoint connectivity between the base station to the CPE or terminal station, as we call it. It's a wireless connection over layer 2, so it's extremely simple and much faster to deploy. The unlicensed FWA. This is a very important section of the FWA market. However, it's associated with interference. Unlicensed, it is very well known that it's associated with interference, and there's multiple techniques that can overcome that. But the bottom line is there is interference. And one of the main advantages that the WISP offers when it comes down to the comparison with unlicensed is that it offers gigabit, multi-gigabit speeds towards the end user with predictability. Again, we'll discuss that. But that is offered at long distances in a predictable fashion. You know exactly the distance where you're going to have every single capacity that is being calculated from the RF plan. The next one is satellite. This is making a lot of progress lately. It is very well known and a lot of money being poured there, but latency, even with the low orbit satellites, is still an issue compared to FWA. It's still a higher latency system. WISP, on the other hand, because it's a fixed wireless system, has a much lower latency and therefore translates that to a much better user experience. So why are we talking about the licensed millimeter wave technology? Why did Intracom pursue that? Because we listen to our customers, and customers have been thinking about very meaningful business questions. They are considering simple solution and easy to deploy. Is that feasible? About reliable and high capacity service, something that can be in the multi-gigabit fashion, for example, and reliably delivered as a service. But about working a solution that will work for the years to come. This is a very important question about the predictability. But not least, is this possible for my return on investment? In other words, if I invest money on an FWA, will this work and make sense, or I will not have to change anything later on? Will I need to overcome issues for this deployment? Do I need to change anything for this technology to work? So are all these possible? The answer is yes. All of that is possible with a licensed millimeter wave FWA offering that we have. Now let's look at how this licensed millimeter wave solution helps you. First of all, you don't need to fight interference. Interference is not there, it's licensed. So even though unlicensed can be great for delivery of throughput, there's always going to be a random factor. That indicative picture that you see here, it shows you the purple line there, yellow line shows you the unlicensed noise floor. Compared to the blue line at the bottom, which is much lower, that's the noise floor for the transmission, for the communication between the systems. So that random fluctuation that you see at the top on the yellow line, yellow line, you will see that represents the random factor associated with that transmission. The one at the bottom for the licensed millimeter wave, it's much more stable. This is the nature of the deployment. Don't have such randomness there when you compare the two transmissions. Now, there are cases, as you see, that protected spectrum is used, but and even though that helps a lot, it's not available everywhere. So with licensed millimeter wave, you don't have to fight that battle with interference. And that automatically translates to a better customer experience. Now, another basic concept is that the licensed millimeter wave, FWA, helps you go from a good enough to an SLA grade system. What do we mean by that? Every time you have a service offering, you primarily want to consider a committed rate. That committed rate is represented here on this picture on the right of the part of the slide as the center pipe. That is your committed. If the customer is has to receive, or if they're willing to transmit, if there's available traffic to be transmitted, either downstream or upstream, you have a committed information rate that you're basically selling to the customer. The outer limit that you see, the outer pipe, that's the peak information rate. So the committed and the peak. And the whole idea here is when you have a service level grade system, you can discuss with the customer, this is your committed rate and this is your peak rate. You can plan accordingly for the network deployment, and you can actually plan your revenues. But the big question here is, can you actually guarantee that this committed rate will be provided by a network, let's say in a non-licensed FWA fashion, if the radio or the RF side cannot actually provide such a capacity? So the customer may want to transmit, may need to transmit, but the RF side may not be capable of delivering that service. That's how you go from a good enough to an SLA grade. The licensed millimeter wave provides that customer experience because of the nature of the transmission. You can actually commit to that rate, and you can have the peak information rate when available to plan additional streams of revenue. Next one is what I call the real world busy hour truth. You want to have something that is field proven specifically for streaming when everybody gets on Netflix, for example, and we know how important that is. What you see here on this picture is public data that you can find on Netflix website, particularly for the Italian performance they have there. And it shows you the third from the bottom, the second from the bottom circle here, Eolo. This is our reference in Italy. It actually happens to be the world's largest 28 gigahertz FWA deployment, licensed spectrum deployment that actually used Intracom's radios, the WISPs system, which is exactly what we're talking about here. We have exceeded 400,000 terminals deployed. And this proves that Eolo with the WISP system was able to rank top out of all the wireless networks in the ISP speed index, second to all the other companies that are using fiber to deliver the service. The reason why this is extremely important is because it shows you that when you develop it properly, when you install a system and design it to have a very predictable service, that is reflected on the end user experience. So the experience that they got is the top out of all the other wireless technologies, and it's very comparable to the fiber. That is extremely important, and that's what translates to better customer experience. Next one I want to mention is the truck roll reduction story. You got to think in terms of total cost of ownership. How reliable, in other words, the service quality is. Everybody can deliver capacity towards the end user. You can be selling 100 megabits or 300, as best effort service, but at some point, the end customer may be seeing that they're getting tremendously different kind of capacities at home. They don't have a very clear way to judge what they're going to be getting for the most part and what is the best effort service. So a lot of these cases can translate to service calls by the end customer. Hey, what's wrong with my service? Why do I get such a low capacity? When am I going to see the capacities that I purchased a plan for? That translates to more time, field visits, and eventually cost associated with the total cost of ownership. And that's why we think that the licensed FWA provides a better customer experience. The next concept I want to describe as the main benefit of the millimeter wave licensed FWA is that you don't have to buy yesterday's ceiling. Everybody talks about 1 gigabit, but if 2 gigabits is available today, not tomorrow, but today, why do you want to settle for just the 1 gigabit? One of the primary things that you have to consider is how to future-proof the service. So if today the WISP system and the licensed FWA provides 2 gigabits, why settle for the 1 gigabit? And then on top of that, you have to consider a very, very important market right now, which is the MDU market. MDU markets actually, the multi-dwelling unit or multi-tenant unit means that you have multiple subunits to be served inside that building. When you have 2 gigabits, it makes sense to provide that pipe with the 2 gigabits and then distribute traffic. Got something to show you in the next slides about that. But besides the MDU, I want to also talk about the tiering capability of services. You don't necessarily have to consider that you must do the, you absolutely need to switch to the licensed FWA. You can complement an existing, for example, unlicensed investment you have, as long as it's clear that the licensed FWA will provide you with better service capability. What you can market as the premium services. You can have additional revenue. Picture that shows here, the main concept is that you can have, let's say, with an unlicensed deployment, enterprise connectivity at 1 gigabit, MDU at 1 gigabit, your residential services up to 1 gigabit. But if you really want to make money by getting a lot more revenue with premium services, licensed FWA is what really makes sense. That's how you can offer the 2 gigabit to your enterprise, your MDUs, or the residential premium services for that. That's what this card shows you on the very right, the rightmost lane. Think of it as the 4-lane highway that everybody else uses, the standard service, and the premium, the express lane is on the far right. That's what the WISP system offers, and that's why we think this provides a better customer experience. So in a nutshell, the Intracom Telecom response, specifically the YBAS point-to-multipoint licensed FWA system, is a licensed spectrum solution. It is line of sight because we believe that this is the most predictable way. Non-line of sight, they can be great, but predictability is associated with line of sight. If you want to have in excess of 2 gigabit service towards the end user, this is what the system makes sense, because it can provide that 2 gigabit plus service. And also, it is 5G compatible where that is available. When it comes down to the other systems that we have as part of our wireless transport and access portfolio, this is pretty large. We're not going to go into the details. The only thing I'm going to show you here is that the point-to-multipoint part is what we have been discussing. This is this part at the very top, and it's split with the into the base station area here and the terminal stations. Obviously, the message here is that we have a lot more bands. It's not just this. We have other systems. And another very important technology is the point-to-point here at the bottom. Now, the point-to-point is split into the microwave that you see here, the middle band. We are slowly introducing this, actually not that slow, now has we've cranked it up, and we are introducing the microwave portfolio into the US market now. We have introduced the 11 gigahertz, the 18, 23 is coming up, and the rest of the bands are on their way. And at the very bottom, you see the E-band. This is a fantastic solution that we have. Actually, it's a market-leading solution for the E-band connectivity, the Ultralink GX80 being the flagship currently in the market because of its system gain, the highest in the market to deliver 10 gigabits, and we got the GX80 Advanced coming up for 15 gigabit connectivity using E-band. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention is all of these radios, they're Intracom designed and manufactured, but this also applies to every single antenna that you see as part of our solution. Designed and manufactured antennas by Intracom Telecom. You see this here on the right side. So what's the powerhouse behind this tremendous market-leading system? It's the YBAS base station, which is called the Smart BS that you see here. This is a 4x4 MIMO massive beamforming system. It operates between 75 and 200 megahertz channels. And it also has an aggregate capacity for the sector of up to 5.6 gigabits. The CPE side, or terminal station as we call it, this is the GigaConnect Plus. It is a 2x2 MIMO system. It operates in the same channel spectrum, 75 to 200 megahertz, just like the base station. And it's the one that can deliver up to 2.5 gigabits per second towards the end user. Now here's, I want to connect back to the MDU solution that I told you. This is a very important market that Intracom addresses. And what I want to say, again, this is licensed mmWave. What is the issue here? Everybody can connect a base station to, let's say, several buildings or MDUs. The main issue here is, what do you do with the internal wiring, the cable, the infrastructure? Obviously, you don't want to start building the infrastructure from scratch. You don't want to start cabling the whole building, right? You want to use the existing one. But the twisted pair, the coax cable, you know, they've been there for quite some time, and it's a challenge delivering that capacity. So what do? This particular example, we're trying to connect the MDU, a shopping mall that you see here, a hospital, and a residence, right? So we're using our point-to-multipoint, Smart BS here, again, licensed mmWave. We got on the MDU side and in all other buildings, you see the terminal radio. This is the WISPs G5 terminal station, the Plus. And the top of the building, there's also the G.HN multiplexer. This is a system that enhances that capability of the existing infrastructure. And you see the same kind of concept in the other buildings as well. This multiplexer can be an indoor unit or an outdoor, depending on the environment you want to integrate that with. You see the connectivity between the base station, the smart BS, and the different radios at the different buildings, right? But the main idea is that here's at the top of the building, the radio, the CPE side. We've got the G.HN aggregation multiplexer at the top of the building. And then when you zoom in, you see the existing phone cable, for example, the existing infrastructure in the building. And then we connect that to a G.HN CPE that connects to the Wi-Fi router. So this is the total solution. And this is how we basically use the existing infrastructure to deliver that market-leading capacity of 2.5 gigabits towards the buildings, the MDUs, the hospitals, whatever you want, even the residents, right? Now, use cases worldwide. Where have we used that multi-gigabit wireless fiber? Many places. So North America, right here, we have engaged with the top players in the US market, top players. We also have great references with partners as well. I'm gonna let Charlie talk about this with Broadband One and GeoLinks. We have references in Latin America, Europe. I mentioned that briefly with Eolo. In Italy, we have exceeded 400,000 CPEs deployed there. Other references in Africa as well as APAC. We'll be more than happy to show them. They're actually listed on our website, but there's a lot of networks out there. And specifically for the WISPs, very reliable field-proven solutions, as you can see on this slide. 50 networks worldwide, big networks with the WISPs, FWA. It enables the gigabit, multi-gigabit to the home, but now we got multi-gigabit if needed. And all of this is the result of more than 20 years of expertise and know-how where we have been evolving the WISPs platform. Now, one of the main questions is going to be, okay, great. We get it, the idea that licensed millimeter wave WA has a lot of advantages, provides the actual service that the customer needs, can help me increase their revenue, but what about spectrum? Licensed spectrum has been auctioned off. How do I get access to that? This is where we have what we show here, the millimeter wave trifecta. And what we do is we have the concept of one team and one goal to help you make that happen. This kind of services for you or your end customers. And the idea is that Intracom Telecom is the player here that provides the technology, the advanced licensed millimeter wave WA. And we have Winncom Technologies. This is our distribution and integration expertise partner. They have been in this industry for a really long time. They can deliver exceptional services and expertise to deliver the service for your end customers. And then the last part is the licensed spectrum partners. This is the two main partners that we use to lease the spectrum. And at this point, Charlie, do you want to add a few notes here about our great spectrum partners here?
Sure, George. Appreciate that. Yeah, so, you know, here in the US, we have relationships with all the top spectrum holders, the larger ones that are nationwide, as well as some of the smaller regional ones. this puts us in an extremely strong position. And as we prepare to release our products in a multiple of spectrums, including 24 gigahertz, 26 gigahertz, 28 gigahertz, and 39 gigahertz over the next 6 to 12 months. In short, it's not just that we're a hardware vendor, we're bridging that gap between the spectrum availability and the hardware, and this is what makes it all work. So we have those relationships intact. Folks like GeoLinks, Broadband One are the larger ones nationwide, and then also the regional spectrum holders as well. So along with Winncom and our partners, we're very excited about releasing this. In some cases, we can get up to 300 megahertz of spectrum leasing out there. So it's just an amazing solution coming down the road.
Fantastic.
As of today.
Right. That's the most important part, and that it is available today. Now, from what I understand, that the concept here works for an area, right? It's not the onesie twosie kind of CPE.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very regional specific. We have a multiple options on the spectrum side and multiple partners. Like I said, we're partnered up with all of them. So it's
fantastic. All right, Charlie, appreciate the feedback here. So before we go into the questions, I'd like to thank everybody. This is it for the product side. Charlie, Loverzo, appreciate your feedbacks. Randy, you can lead with any questions we may have on the connectivity for the point-to-point with the E-band. Appreciate you being part of the team here and helping with this webinar, and also Markela Lina Goru, our senior channel marketing lead. Appreciate you all helping with this webinar. At this point, Dawn, this is it on the product. If we have any questions, we'd love to hear them and see what we can do to answer them.
Sure. We have a couple questions that have come up. I will start with the first one. What are the main technical or operational differences between Intracom and unlicensed?
Okay. Yeah, that is a great question. I would say the most important one is predictability. So this basically summarizes a lot of different aspects. It includes the service quality that we mentioned. When you provide a service, you got to make sure that there's you can predict it, not just now, but in the future as well. What's going to happen 10 years from now? There's great systems out there that can overcome interference, for example, now, but can anybody guarantee what's going to happen in 10 years from now? Or that the spectrum, the protected spectrum, in some cases will be available everywhere? I think another concept is that will help with the revenue is how you will have higher premium services. Can you offer the premium service? I think that is a fundamental difference with unlicensed. The planning of the network, when you have predictability and you know exactly what you can plan at every base station, because the spectrum is licensed, you don't have interference, so you know how to plan base station capacities, the CPEs, you can plan everything, the whole thing. Another one is the long-term performance, the investment. You know that what you're going to put today is going to work for as long as that spectrum is available. So it's guaranteed performance. You don't have to do anything in the future. That what works today will work tomorrow. A couple more things that have been brought to our attention is we have had a lot of people raising the question of security. In certain cases, if in case there is any spectrum access system, the SAS database, what happens to my data? Is it up in the cloud? The whole network information about what I'm planning, is it safe or not? The protected part of their deployment. The non-line of sight, it's a great technology, but can you really predict it? And of course, all of that, you know, is something that can work for a lot of customers out there that just want something on a good enough basis. Yeah, absolutely. There's great technologies out there, and that's why we say that you don't necessarily have to switch to the licensed millimeter wave, but you can complement your unlicensed services by making more money with the license part, especially if you have like the MDU. How are you going to deliver that with something that you don't know what the predictability of the service will be in 10 years from now, or 5 years, even sooner? And that capacity that we discussed of 2 gigabits is available now and predictable. You know exactly what you predict on the RF planning today is going to work 5 years from today. So that's how I would summarize the predictability part between the unlicensed and the licensed technologies.
Wonderful. Thank you for that explanation. I have one more question to be addressed. Can you explain the inquiry process to determine the spectrum availability in a specific city or country location? Or
that's a great question.
I'm sorry, city or county.
Okay. Charlie, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, to kind of continue on with my previous statements, you know, if you're looking for an area, you know, reach out to us, Winncom. Our partnerships are key. So we have a lot of partners that have a lot of spectrum all around the US. Now, some of it they will be deploying for their own networks, but a lot of our key partners, i.e. GeoLinks, Broadband One, folks like that, have a lot of spectrum that they're willing to work with folks on providing that spectrum to them for their networks. Every case, it's a case-by-case different, you know, a case-by-case solution. So we have to kind of get in together with them, bridge that gap, look at the area, and that's basically how it goes down. You know, a football city is going to be very different than a rural area from a pricing standpoint. That's just the nature of spectrum. But we have all those connections, and we have multiple spectrum offerings. So the key is to reach out to us. We have those partnerships that we can look in and check an area very quickly, whether what kind of coverage it is. Of course, these networks typically are not for a 1 base station and 3 remotes. Typically, they're larger networks, countywide type solutions, or areas that are covering, you know, a fair amount of users. So think of us in that sense, and especially the spectrum folks. They are very, very willing to work with other WISPs, other integrators, other municipalities. They've been extremely open to working with other folks. So we have made all those connections over the years, and reach out to us. We'd love to work with you on that. Acquiring, looking at spectrum options.
Thank you, Charlie. Dawn, any further questions?
There are no additional questions, but I would just like to say a quick thank you to our Intracom Telecom presenters and those who were able to attend this presentation. Please keep an eye out for a follow-up email with all the information you just learned. At any time, please feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have. They will be addressed, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day.
All right. Thank you all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.